Hello there, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Ed Live. I'm your host, Eddie Lane. Of course, we continue to hold the government accountable to examine its actions and how it's impacting the lives of Guyanese. And there's so much to talk about this evening. So many things happening. And one of the big things, a lot of people are concerned about. You're hearing a lot of, complaints and a lot of persons expressing frustration with the crime situation in our country. Almost every day you're seeing, when you read the news, you look at the television, you're seeing that someone probably lost their life or somebody is being robbed. All of this is happening while the Minister of Public Security, Kamraj Ramjatan, seems to have absolutely no clue how we can address this problem. This is a serious scourge. Crime has significantly increased. It's spiraling out of control. Despite all that you're hearing that the government is saying, I see recently Valda Lawrence, the Minister of Public Health, telling a PNC conference that the coalition has managed to reduce crime in our country. They have brought crime under control. I don't know which planet she's living on. I don't know where exactly she's getting her information, but based on what my observation, and I think the observation of many, many other Guyanese, is the fact that crime has increased significantly. 2 days ago, a man was shot, 2 or 3 days ago, a man was shot in his face, killed in Parika, a businessman, a small businessman. Wednesday, elderly lady was killed in All Boys Town by bandits who went into her home, strangled her, and took some cash, tried to kill her husband. And we have had so many other cases where bandits are entering the homes of so many people, robbing them. Many of them are losing their lives in the process, unfortunately. And we have a public security minister, we have a government that is so uncaring, that seems to be oblivious of all of that is happening, seems to care the least about, the safety and security of our citizens. I keep mentioning this and I keep maintaining the point that crime has significantly increased in our country. All of you would recall, prior to 2015, the coalition government, led by no other than the president, then opposition leader, saying, look, we have all the security experts, we have the expertise, we have the know-how, and we have a plan to tackle crime. We're going to reduce crime, we're going to bring down crime in our country. What we have today, 4 years later, we're worse off. Our crime situation is alarming. Persons are afraid to walk the streets. The other day you saw the video of the young lady in Carmichael Street, being attacked in broad daylight by two men, robbed, and so many videos are turning up all over social media, all over the place, of people being robbed constantly. And the bandits have become so bold that they're not just robbing people, they're terrorizing them, they're beating them, they're murdering them, and they're committing these acts in broad daylight. While this is happening, Mr. Ramjatan is busy fighting Nagamutu for prime ministerial candidacy of the coalition, because the prime ministerial candidate comes from the AFC faction of the coalition. So he is busy studying and contemplating and thinking how he can replace Nagamutu to become the prime ministerial candidate, when he can't do the job that he is placed to do. He cannot control crime. He has not given the police force any policy directions. He has absolutely no plan that he can say to the police, this is the plan, this is what we're going to work with, this is the resources we're going to give to you to tackle crime. And I'm just focusing here on robbery, where firearms are used, or major robberies. I haven't touched the issue of petty crimes, people being accosted on the road and their bags being taken away, their phones being taken away, their cash being taken away by bandits on bicycles, on motorcycles, and all sorts of things. Look, the money changer the other day, the man was shot and killed right next to his vehicle in a busy area like Lombard Street. So that is how bold the criminals have become, because you know why? They have recognized that the government has absolutely no plan. They don't know how to approach the issue, and the police is trying. The police force, the guys there are trying. But if you don't provide them with the resources, you don't provide them with the direction, and you as the head, the policy head of the Ministry of Public Security, don't know what to do. Ramjatan said it. He said, I don't know what to do next. I don't know what to do. I have no plan, right? So if the head of the agency has no plan, then how do we expect those who follow him, those who he's presiding over, will be able to function, right? The security sector is like a headless sector because you have someone there who is more concerned about, like I said, prime ministerial candidate and to fight down everybody else rather than focusing on his job to tackle criminality and crime in our country. If you take a look at Ramjatan's record, and I can tell you this, since he took office as Minister of Public Security, you check it, he presided over the deadliest prison riot in recent times in our country. Remember the prison riot where the Camp Street prisons was burnt almost completely down, and more than a dozen prisoners lost their lives. Prison wardens were injured. On the Ramjatan's watch, so many attempts at jail breaks. Right? Persons trying to escape from the prison, persons escaping from the prisons. He has absolutely no plan. On the Ramjatan's watch, murders have increased significantly. Domestic related murders more so, where husband killing wife and all sorts of things. On the Ramjatan's watch, more drugs seems to be passing through the airport because people getting arrested almost weekly with drugs passing through. So the whole talk about Guyana and the PPP was allowing the drugs to flourish in this country and all sorts of things. Look what is happening now. Look what is happening now. The difference is, and the argument is, well, the police and KANU is working more now, so they're capturing more persons. That's a fallacy. It is an absolute fallacy. You know why you're seeing more persons being caught and being found with drugs? Because more drugs passing through the country. They realize, the drug smugglers realize that these guys have absolutely no plan. They don't know what to do. So then we have a free rein. Like the criminals, they're having a free rein because they realize that the government has absolutely no plan. That is also, there's an economic element to the high level of crimes that we are seeing in this country. Because when you look at the people who are committing these crimes, are mainly young men, young people in their 30s, in their 20s, in their teens, probably a few in their 40s. And do you know the reason why that is happening? That is happening because there is no employment opportunity for young people. And I'm not justifying their actions. I condemn crime, criminality, robbery, whatever you want to call it, in its entirety. The point that I'm making, if you don't create opportunities to keep people meaningfully employed, where they can earn a living, they're going to take desperate actions, and that is what is happening. So this government has failed to provide jobs to people. They have destroyed the economy. They have fired over 30,000 people. And they created 126 jobs in 4 years. They said it. This is not coming from me. This is not coming from the People's Progressive Party. This is what came from the Department of Public Information that is headed by the AFC guy Imran Khan, where they have published that in 4 years they created 126 jobs. You have thousands of people coming out of secondary school. You have thousands of people coming out of the University of Guyana. You have hundreds of kids receiving training at the technical institutes and so forth. And you don't have jobs for them. They need money. They need to survive. So what they do, they take actions, delinquent actions that are not necessarily law-abiding actions or actions within the law to earn a living. And that is what is also fueling the high level of crime in our country. Guys thieving $200 and $500 and $1,000 from people, robbing people things that are almost don't even have a value, because the government has failed in all facets, in every single area, every single sector of governance. The APNU AFC have failed. So we are living in a country now where the citizens are afraid. They're absolutely afraid to step outside, to go on the road, to walk, because You don't know. You wear a band, you wear a ring, you wear a chain, somebody's going to pounce on you. You try to buy something somewhere, they see you have some money, somebody is going to try to pounce on you. So that's the problem we have. The people in this country are living in fear, absolute fear, as a result of an incompetent government that is more concerned about how they can enrich themselves, and with absolutely no concern or care for the people of this country, the poor people of this country. Bandits are robbing people who were selling, the guy in Berbice, the family in Berbice the other day, they're selling incense. How much money are they making from that? They probably make a $5,000 or something to maintain themselves, and bandits are terrorizing them, And we have a government that claims, prior to 2015, that they have all the expertise needed to tackle crime. And they haven't done a single thing to show that they're tackling crime. The policemen are still working in some very, very bad conditions. I don't think they have adequate equipment to tackle crime. They're not being provided adequate training to tackle crime. And the police force is not appealing enough at the moment for persons to want to join, so that there can be an increase in the manpower. What the government did is that instead of trying to compensate our law enforcement to do better, they instead took away their 1 month bonus that they usually get. So you take money from them, you demoralize them, and then you expect them to go out and fight crime with limited resources. The government lacks vision. They can't think. None of them seem to be thinking how they can move this country forward. And those are the people who are coming to you now, begging you to vote for them again, and they failed miserably in every single sector. I want to continue to tell you about some of the I would want to call it the achievements of Ramjatan. So Ramjatan's first achievement is the worst prison fire in recent history in this country. Ramjatan's legacy, if you want to call it, is a demoralized security sector. Ramjatan's legacy is politicizing SOCU and sections of the Guyana Police Force. Ramjatan's legacy is not knowing what to do. He has failed, absolutely. He has failed. The president the other day claimed that he did a cabinet reshuffle. He removed the minister whose husband was getting contracts from the Ministry of Housing. He moved her and put her to agriculture, responsible for rural affairs, because, and he said it a few days ago, that because of the conflict of interest that was existing there. The conflict of interest is one part of the problem. What about the incompetence? What about the incompetence in people like Kemraj Ramjatan? What about the incompetence in people like Noel Holder, who is the agriculture minister, who probably don't know which one of the regions in Guyana actually planting the most rice? I doubt whether Mr. Noel Holder knows where in Guyana usually plant rice. I guess Mr. Noel Holder don't know the difference between the types of ducks that people rear. He knows nothing about agriculture. He did absolutely nothing in the agriculture sector. So what about the incompetence? What is the vision of the president? And he has to be held accountable for all the actions of his government, of his ministers. The argument that they continue to make is that these ministers are appointed by the president to assist him in carrying out his function. Clearly, they have failed. I'm not speaking yet about the president and his accomplishments, if there are any, but I'm talking here about his assistants, all the ministers, how they have failed. Those who didn't fail completely in terms of not doing anything are the ones who are trying to do something, but everything that they do, there is deep-rooted corruption in it. So brothers and sisters, I understand the fear in you. You have the same fear that I personally share, and the fear that many, many other Guyanese fear, that you don't know when bandits are going to pounce on you. You don't know when someone is going to approach you, try to rob you. And God forbid, people can lose their lives in that process. While we have a government that cares nothing, that is busy creating jobs for friends and cronies and relatives and so forth, with absolutely no focus on your safety and security. When we have a Minister of Public Security who says, I don't know what to do, and is busy fighting, trying extremely hard to become prime ministerial candidate of the coalition. Matter of fact, yesterday at a press conference, Mr. Ramjathan was bold enough to say crime has not increased, that crime was, the level of criminality and crimes in Guyana was reduced, that the PPP and the leader of the opposition are creating propaganda, they're creating fake news. The crime has reduced. I wonder which planet Mr. Ramjathan is living on. Clearly, he's not living on this planet, and if he is living on this planet, he's not living in Guyana. Because I don't know where exactly Ramjathan is seeing the reduction in crime, when people are being robbed, killed almost daily in our country. You have to make that decision when the time is right. You have to make that decision. And clearly, this coalition government doesn't have what it takes to run this country. They haven't done anything to stimulate the economy. Our economy has flatlined. It is now going under. They haven't done anything. There isn't a single investment from them that created jobs or created wealth for our people. Matter of fact, what they did is they're forcing much more businesses to close their doors. And I'm talking about the small businesses. You take a drive up the East Coast, take a drive on the West Coast, on the East Bank, to Essequibo, to Berbice, and you see what is happening. Small businesses, people who had a little shop, who were depending on whatever they can raise from that to survive, they have to close their businesses and they're out searching for jobs, jobs that are not even available. So they have destroyed the economy. They have borrowed so much money, and they're digging us into a hole, a debt hole, that our children and our children's children will have to pay back. So they're not creating wealth, but they're borrowing money, and they're spending. They have added over 200 new taxes, so they're taking more money out of your pocket. That is what they're doing on a daily basis. You're paying more for everything. You're paying VAT on electricity, VAT on water, VAT on basic items. They're moving, and they were moving, and I think they will, if they get a chance to continue, they will do the revaluation of properties, and they will hit you very, very hard with property taxes. Trust me, I can tell you that. Because that is what they think, or that's what they view as progress. Progress for the coalition government is making the Guyanese people poorer. Take money out of your pocket. So when you look at their performance, the worst performance, in my view, this is the worst government this country has ever seen. They have failed, they have failed, they have failed. It's incompetent, it's corrupt, and they don't care anything about the people of this country. So the time is going to be very soon when you will have to make that choice, and you will have to vote the right, make the right choice when you vote. And I can tell you, the choice is the People's Progressive Party. We have a plan. We have youth, we have competence, we have vigor, we have energy, we have ability, and we have people with experience. So the team that you're going to see representing the People's Progressive Party Civic is going to be a team that has all the competencies that are needed to move Guyana forward. We cannot be fooled again. Please do not be fooled again. So again, I want to conclude on this issue of crime and to say to you that the time is right for you, the people of Guyana, to build the pressure on this government to address crime in this country. If it means to get rid of Ramjathan and to find somebody, I don't know who they're going to find that is competent within the coalition, but to find somebody else who may very well try to do something. Right? So the president did his cabinet reshuffle, as he called it, and he moved around a few people and so on and so on. But the incompetent people remain in the positions they are in. They remain there. Now that seems to be the benchmark. That seems to be the level at which the president is thinking, that he is satisfied with the performance of Ramjatan, who has not managed to address the issue of crime. You look at it. One of the worst piracy attacks in this country was on the Ramjatan, when how many persons were killed and some of them disappeared. The bodies are still not found in the Berbice in the Corentyne River, when they were attacked by pirates, I think earlier this year or late last year. How can we continue? How as a country can we continue to have people like Ramjatan and the others who are in there and all they're concerned about is themselves? He concerned about becoming prime minister and the others concerned about how they can enrich themselves. Absolutely no concern about the people of this country. So I think it's time for you to make that call, to put the pressure on this government to fix the problems as it relates to crime in this country and ensure that it is addressed forthwith, and that we as a people, we can walk the streets of our country safe, feeling comfortable, that we no longer need to be indoors by 6 o'clock and lock up our doors and our windows and put on a whole host of grills and all sorts of things. Because the problem that you have is that the criminals are coming armed with firearms, and when the other day the two businessmen attempted to protect the young lady who was being robbed in broad daylight by two men, and their firearms were taken away and they're on the investigation. I understand one of the guys failed to renew his license, which is fair enough by the police. But sometimes, you have to weigh situations. When you do that, you're emboldening the criminals to say, okay, the police seem to be on our side, the security forces seem to be on our side, so we can continue to do what we do. So please, it is your responsibility, the responsibility of all of us, to build the pressure on this government to ensure that they address the issue of crime and security. So that is it for crime. And like I said, there are so many things that are happening, and we want to talk about a couple of them this evening. And one of the other things that I want to spend a few minutes to talk about is the upcoming CCJ case. I don't want to go in detail, but I want to just remind you the fact that the oral arguments are going to be presented on the 9th and 10th. I believe that the People's Progressive Party has a very competent team of lawyers and I'm confident that they will present the kind of argument that will ensure that I don't know what to describe it as, but this calculation of 34 needed and so forth, that is going to be thrown out the window, and we are going to see the CCJ, these honorable people at the CCJ, these judges, are going to rule being fair in their ruling, and to rule in such a way to uphold the laws of Guyana, to uphold the rule of law, to ensure that they rule accordingly. I'm confident that they're going to rule against the appeals court decision, and this matter can be disposed of, because there's great political uncertainty in our country. We're not seeing investors coming. Persons don't know what to do. I think this matter is going to be disposed of quite soon, and we are going to be in a position of, to move forward. And we're going to have the elections pretty soon, and I'm confident that you're going to turn out in your numbers and vote for the People's Progressive Party so that we can continue the progress that we left off in 2015. Because as it is now, our country is at a standstill. We're moving backwards. Nothing is happening. No jobs, no investment, nothing is happening. So I spoke a little bit about the cabinet reshuffle, and I still don't know why some of these people are still in their jobs. I want to talk a little bit about young people, though, because I think young people in our country have been fooled, and I'm seeing organizations, I should put this up front to you, I'm seeing organizations that are popping up again. You remember the Vote Like a Boss organization that came out there to say they're lobbying for young people to ensure young people vote solidly and they can have opportunities and so on. Well, those organizations have failed the young people of this country, and the government by extension failed young people. There is nothing that is happening in our country for young people. They are not creating opportunities for them to become entrepreneurs. They are not creating jobs for them. They are not creating recreational facilities for them. They are not supported. There is nothing that this government is doing to support young people in our country. They fool you. Remember the big posters that they're putting up, AP, Vote AP and UFC for jobs? The jobs that they were talking about are the jobs for their cronies, the people in their circle, right? Mr. Harmon resigned because he was forced to resign because he's a foreigner sitting in the National Assembly, as far as I see it. He was forced to resign, and then he got a job as the Director General, a position that was created for Mr. Harmon as the Director General of the Ministry of the Presidency. And Mr. Harmon's only task right now, based on his own admission, is to sit in cabinet and hold a weekly press conference. So he's going to come out of cabinet. You create a job for a man to sit in cabinet, listen to what you say, come out and host a press conference. Then the president subsequently said, oh, I rehire Mr. Harmon so he can help me manage the Ministry of the Presidency. That by itself sounds as though Mr. Harmon is the de facto prime minister. You know, he's the unofficial prime minister. He is the president's deputy because he's managing, help the president manage the government. So create a high-paying job for a man whose only role at this point in time is to host a press conference weekly. There are so many other people in cabinet. And what is even worse is the fact that the president continues to create ministerial positions and posts for people who will do absolutely nothing. Don Hastings, who was Minister of Public Affairs, that nobody knew what public affairs meant in the context of that minister, is now the Minister of State, but she's not carrying out the functions that the Minister of State was carrying out. So she just has, there's this title, there's a salary, these benefits, fancy vehicle, living off of taxpayers, but do absolutely nothing. You take a walk through the government. You sit down in your quiet moments and take a walk through the government. Annette Ferguson, minister, who was minister within the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, was doing absolutely nothing. I can't point to a single thing that that minister achieved in the past 4 years. Minister Keith Scott, apart from insulting Amerindians, does absolutely nothing. Point to one single thing that he did over the past 4 years that benefit the people of this country. There are thousands of people who have issues, labor-related issues, that Minister Keith Scott does nothing about. I hear these stories every day from them. Minister Karen Cummings, minister within the Ministry of Health, was doing absolutely nothing because I haven't seen anything that she would have done as the minister within the Ministry of Health. So these are all people who are being paid high salaries. Minister Noel Holder did absolutely nothing. Minister Garida Lowe, what is her role? Minister within the Ministry of Indigenous Peoples Affairs. She's doing absolutely nothing, but she has a good salary, enjoying state resources of drivers, vehicles, probably rental of a house. Simona Brooms, absolutely nothing. Former Minister of Public Service, absolutely nothing. There's a new Minister of Public Service, absolutely nothing that she will do too. Because these are all positions that are created, ministerial posts that are created to ensure party loyalists and people close to the coalition government enjoy jobs. I named just a few, but you can walk through the entire government and tell me what these people are doing. What are they doing to benefit you? The few who are doing, and many of it, Minister Patterson is continuing a whole host of projects from the PPP that the PPP left, the Cherry Jagan International Airport, the 4-lane highway, and all these other projects. He's just continuing what was left there in terms of the resources and the construction of these things, the Mandela Avenue Road project. But while he is continuing those, then there's another side to the story where you have a whole host of issues when it comes to corruption, and a lot of cloud hanging over the projects that he's involved in. So, who is incompetent? Those who are not doing anything. Then there's another set that busy filling their pockets. Busy filling their pockets. Right? You have to ask yourselves the questions. Are you better off in 2019 as against prior to 2015? And I know the answer is going to be a resounding no. You are not. We are worse off as a people. We are worse off. We haven't achieved, we haven't seen a single thing coming into this country that this government can say that they did that is going to improve the lives of people. We're still getting frequent power outages, blackouts. We're still getting rusty water coming through the taps and the poor water quality. The hospitals are without drugs. Some of the hospitals at the regional level are falling apart. The health centers are without drugs. They're falling apart. Despite spending hundreds of millions into the billions, there are many communities, apart from a few roads in Georgetown that they patched here and there are many communities with broken roads, clogged drains, and all sorts of things that the ministry, the central government was supposed to be working on, that they're not doing. They spent over, I think is it $3 trillion since they took office on these budgets. Point me to one single thing that this government did that would have improved the lives of Guyanese. One. I challenge anybody to point me to one single thing. I know it's going to be a task for you to find that one single thing. We have a situation where we have an incompetent, uncaring, corrupt government whose only interest is to ensure that they enrich themselves and create jobs for their cronies and their friends and their families and all sorts of things. Their ministers have companies that are benefiting from contracts from the government, and they say, oh, that's not conflict of interest because I don't have a hand in it. I don't manage the company day to day. I don't be a part of the company, but you're enjoying the profit. You're enjoying the profit. And I made a call last week to Minister of Public Telecommunications, Cathy Hughes. And I said, once the minister can release her information with regards to her submission to the Integrity Commission to show that she is in no way benefiting from video mega production, and that whatever the company gets, the contracts that the company gets from the government, that she's not benefiting financially from it. I challenge her to do that. And look, you saw a few contracts came out. There are much more. Do you know who did the public service announcements for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 2016? It was Video Mega Production. Video Mega Production did those PSAs, a couple of them well with regards to Venezuela and the border controversy and so on. So all of a sudden, Video Mega Production start winning all these bids. And the minister has no say, no hand, or the fact that the minister is the owner of the company has nothing to do with automatically Video Mega Production start getting all these contracts. Somehow this government is of the view Guyanese are fools. We don't know anything. So they can walk all over us and we're going to sit there and say, oh, that's true. They said it. Brothers and sisters, I want to say to you, the elections are going to be pretty soon. In a matter of months. I can say that. If it doesn't happen now, it's going to happen in 2020. It's a matter of months. And you have a choice to make. And I want to encourage you to make the right choice. Make the right choice. We need to come together as a people, regardless of our race, regardless of our religion, regardless of our political affiliation, and we need to elect a government that is going to be for the people, that is going to work in the interest of all of us as Guyanese to ensure that our living standard, our lives improve in such a way that we can live comfortably. That is all Guyanese want. Guyanese want to live comfortable. That is all we need. We need to live a peaceful, comfortable life. Clearly, we are not safe in our country. Clearly, we are not earning in our country. Clearly, the government is pilfering the treasury. And clearly, they don't have our interest at heart. They don't. You don't need a government like that. You need a government that is going to be caring, understanding, and that is going to put the people of this country first. And the only government that can do that, the only political party that can form a government that is going to put the interest of Guyanese at front, right, is the People's Progressive Party. We've done it. Look at the PPP's record from 1992. We took a corrupt, bankrupt country, and we were able to grow this country to one of the fastest growing economies in this part of the world. So we have managed to transform Guyana. We have managed to move Guyana forward, as against this government, which would have taken us probably about 10 steps back. About 10 steps back. We are going back to the pre-1992 days, where we're going to have a country that we won't have any money. We're going to be paying debts. We're going to use majority of our earnings to pay debts, because these guys are borrowing all over the place. Every single corner they get, they borrow money. Every single corner. That is what they're doing. And we're going to be in a state probably returning as one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere. Do you want that? Do we want that for our children? Do we want that for our grandchildren? Do we want a situation where we don't know where our next meal is? Already some people are facing that problem. If you go into places like Wales and you go in Berbice and so on, you're going to see absolutely nothing is happening. But what the government boasts about. They went to Linden and they hand over a television station, which was, by the way, in the works since under the PPP. The process had started under the PPP to hand over the television station to Linden, that is the NCN branch in Linden. And 4 years after they achieved it, and that's a watershed moment for Linden. Linden is going to be transformed. Everybody in Linden is going to start working, going to start eating, going to start living happy, because the government hand over television station to them. That is the kind of thinking of this government. That is their vision. A narrow vision for Guyana. Handing over a television station and go and walk about and fool people and tell them they're going to bring all these fancy things to them and they're going to give them all these fancy things. That is their vision to take this country forward. Right? They don't concern about investment, foreign investment or local investment. They are not concerned about improving the working conditions for people here. They are not concerned about creating jobs for people. They are not concerned about ensuring that people are living in a safe and secure environment. They are not concerned about improving infrastructure so that it can benefit the people. They are not concerned about the poor people. They are not concerned about the elderly. They are not concerned about the welfare of young people. They are not concerned about the welfare of the vulnerable groups, single parents and so forth. What happened to the WOW initiative that the PPP had launched, where single mothers were going and get a loan to start a little business and they were being guided? What happened to those initiatives? They took away the water subsidy and the electricity subsidy from pensioners. They probably scrapped the WOW initiative. They took nothing, absolutely nothing, to benefit the people of this country. So again, brothers and sisters, this is where I have to wrap things up. But I want to say to you that your choice at the next elections is the People's Progressive Party. Together, let us move our country forward. APNU, AFC, they don't have the interest of the people at heart, and they're not going to move this country forward. They're about enriching themselves. They're about creating opportunities and jobs and enriching their friends and their cronies and their relatives. That is all they're concerned about. That's all. They have absolutely nothing to offer the people of this country. Poor leadership, corruption, incompetence. We have a government like a bunch of sailors. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to move this country forward. So again, I encourage you to come, listen to what the PPP has to say, learn about our vision, learn about how we're going to create jobs for you, how we are going to be able to create wealth for you, how we are going to develop this country, how we are going to spend your resources. The resources of this country is the people of Guyana resource. And we're going to come hear from us how we're going to utilize the resources of this country to improve the lives of every single Guyanese, regardless of your political affiliation, regardless of your race, regardless of your religion, regardless of your social or economic status in the country. We're going to work to improve the lives of every single Guyanese. So I encourage all of you to get on board with us. Come, listen to us, talk to us. You're free to come in to our offices anywhere and talk with our comrades. Let them enlighten you. Because there's a lot of misperception out there with regards to what the PPP stands for and how the PPP intends to work in the interest of all of you. Until next week, this is where we're going to wrap things up. I want to thank you very much for being part of the program. I'm going to be back here next Saturday with you. And of course, we're going to continue to hold the government accountable. Until then, have a good rest of the evening. Bye for now.